you have something called intrusive thoughts. And I was like, okay, cool. She was like, look it up. We can start a session on a Saturday. Alhamdulillah, ever since then, I've since been diagnosed with OCD. I've gone on a separate journey of mental health and trying to manage it. But in that journey of doing so, ups and downs through depression, anxiety, OCD, I realized that there wasn't a lot of Islamic resources to help manage mental health and how to manage OCD, anxiety, depression, and whatnot. So over some of the papers I've read, over some of the books I've read, over some of the shaykh I study with, I kind of came up with this ebook. So I'll go through the main chapters of it. I'm not going to present my screen because it's a bit boring me presenting something. So what I started this book off with was my bow, which I explained to you. And from chapter 3, verse 140 from the Quran, Allah tells us, if a wound should touch you, that has already touched the opposing people or wound similar to it. And from this verse, it kind of explains to us, or explained to me that we all going through similar things. Like none of us are going through something which is unique. We all suffer somewhat in these ways. So moving on from that, I want to talk about seeking help. When we go through whatever trial, difficult time you go through, we want the pain to stop. We want the pain to go. We want it to be normal again. So we need to seek help, we seek assistance, and we seek to remove the harm. When the Prophet ﷺ told us there should be neither harm nor reciprocating harm. So it's kind of upon us, obligation upon us to remove the harm from ourselves. And if that harm is OCD, depression, anxiety, then it's kind of obligatory upon us to stop the harm and stop it from happening. And one of those, and the method to stop that from happening is to seek help. I always give the analogy that, for example, if you had diabetes, cancer, a broken leg, you wouldn't just ignore those signs of pain, right? Mental health needs to be treated the same as physical health. And if we ignore that pain, why would I ignore my issues that are going through my mind? Why am I ignoring the mental struggle that I'm going through? So if we treat it the same as physical health, alhamdulillah, we'll be able to get through a lot. And if you really think about it, if you don't care for yourself, your own well-being, who will? So you should take it as an obligation upon yourself to actually, if something's hurting, if something's painful, seek help. And this moves on to the next point, the company we keep. So as I explained in my background, I talked to my mum straight away. And seeking help doesn't mean rushing to the GP straight away. It can mean chatting to your friends, opening up, talking to your friends or family if you can, whoever you deem is closest to you, you can understand. And being surrounded by people like that and the company you keep is a blessing from Allah, the people who remind you of Allah. And there was a saying I saw, I can't remember when, a couple of years ago, and it said something along the lines of being a true friend. So be a true friend. Check on the friends who laugh, check on the friends who are sad, check on the friends who don't speak much, check on each other. Just giving someone your time can light the darkness they're in. So if we're all aware of being open to people talking to us, our friends and family and loved ones about mental health, but we're also willing to open up, it's kind of a lovely collaboration we can have of healing and helping. So there's a hadith with the Prophet ﷺ. I'll read it out to you. It was narrated by Ibn Umar. The Muslim is the brother of his fellow Muslim. He does not wrong him or let him down. The one who meets the needs of his brother, Allah will meet his needs. Whoever relieves a Muslim of distress, Allah will relieve him of distress on the day of resurrection. So just another example of the benefit of helping each other. And this is probably the next point I'm going into, is what more relevant to medical help. So as I mentioned there, going to the therapist was an instrumental part of my kind of recovery per se, but also the managing of my OCD and mental health. I think one of the issues here is the courage and bravery it takes to actually take that first step. But to be the best son, daughter, nephew, niece, uncle, auntie you can be, is to be the best version of yourself. And to be the best version of yourself is to be the one who is happy and healthy. So if a method of becoming that best version of yourself is to go to the GP, go and get some therapy, go private therapy if you had to. That's what I had to do. But I feel like that, getting that help and getting to that place where you feel you are the best person, you're benefiting others, alhamdulillah, is amazing. So be brave and tackle it head on, and be courageous in seeking help. There's another hadith here, and it's about repelling anxiety and depression. It's one of my favorite, so I'll read it out to you. Before I go on, actually, this ebook, I'm reading from it, but I can send the link on afterwards. It's all available to download. So the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever is afflicted with grief and anxiety, then he should pray with these words. Oh Allah, certainly I am your slave, the son of your male slave and the son of your female slave. My forehead is in your hand. Judgment upon me is assured, and your decree concerning me is just. I ask you by every name you have named yourself with, revealed in your book, taught any one of your creation, or kept unto yourself in the knowledge of the unseen that is with you, to make the Quran the spring of my heart and the light of my chest, the banisher of my sadness and the reliever of my distress. So for me, obviously, that's a beautiful hadith. And it brings me to another point of the relationship we have with the Quran. I started studying the Quran as a kind of a remedy for my mental distress, because I didn't know what was going on. I needed help, and the only one who could help me, I was like, is Allah. And I wasn't that close to Allah at the time. I didn't really have a relationship with the Quran. So what I urge brothers and sisters is to start that journey, because not only is, for me, is a form of therapy to recite the Quran, is a form of, it's like getting closer to Allah, getting closer to it's getting closer to Allah and having that light in your chest, which is the Quran. So there's many institutions I can recommend to study the Quran and have a better relationship with it. And for me, the Quran has been and it is now a kind of cornerstone of relieving distress, relieving anxiety, and helping me live a more tranquil life. Alhamdulillah. So let's think about practical steps of fighting these internal battles. Tawakkul and hope. Trust in Allah and hope. So Ibn al-Qayyim said, there's very something beautiful about hope. Fear and hope are like two wings of a bird that used to fly. If you don't have hope, i.e. the counterpart of a wing, how can you fly? You'll crash. And I feel like when you're in these terrible times, you're in these times of hardship, we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. We are like, this is how it's always going to be. But we know that pain is not constant, it's temporary. It goes up and down. We'll have good times, we'll have bad times. It will be difficult, it will be easy. And in the book, some of you may read it, it's called Don't Be Sad by Dr. Al-Qani. He mentions in that book, hope allows a person to transcend the current situation and live for a better future. Thus, when our backs are against the wall and we feel alone in our fight, we realize that the person has no one else, has Allah. So one of the most crucial things I wanted to say here is that we only have Allah. The creator Allah can relieve stress and help us in no matter what situation. So the key thing here is, even no matter how dark and horrible it gets, you need to have hope. You need to hold on to it. You have to think positive of Allah. You have to think positive. Allah will help me out of the situation. You don't know what is going to be your future. You don't know what's going to happen the next day, 4 days, 5 days, week, month. What has happened in the past has happened. That's the call of Allah. It's been decreed. What happens in the future is in the world of the unseen. And what happens in the present, we ground ourselves in. But have hope in the future of what's to come, inshallah. And that moves me on to the next point, Qadr, destiny. From the same book, Dr. Al-Qani explains, your only escape is to believe in preordainment, i.e. the Qadr of Allah, the divine decree, the destiny. Since whatever has been decreed must inevitably take place, not subterfuge nor artifice can protect you from it. So what I took away from this is that whatever has happened to you, whatever has been decreed, don't think, what if this, what if that, what if this happened, what if that happened? Just accept the decree. This was always written. This was always going to happen. And I think once you start to accept that, the process of healing can happen, and the process of healing can really start to take place. And I like this hadith as well, so I'm gonna read it out again. Sorry if I'm just reading a lot. So from this hadith, is this from hadith? Yeah, hadith Nawawi 19. All the references are in the ebook. So young man, I will teach you some words. Be mindful of Allah and He will protect you. Be mindful of Allah and you will find Him before you. If you ask from Allah. If you seek help from Allah. Know that if the nations gathered to benefit you, they will not benefit you unless Allah has decreed it for you. And if the nations gathered to harm you, they will not harm you unless Allah has decreed it for you. The pens have been lifted and the pages have been dried. And I feel like that's such a beautiful end of the hadith, because the pens have been lifted and the pages have been dried. It's already been decreed. So to say, khalas, that's it, it's done, it's fine. Whatever's happened has happened. The pens have been lifted and the pages have been dried. So accept the qadr, and then you can begin your healing, inshallah. So to conclude this kind of talk on qadr, Imam Shafi said, "Let the days bring what they may, and be contented when a decree has come to pass. When the execution of it comes in a land of some nation, neither earth nor sky can prevent it." So this just brings home the point. Don't think, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? If only this, if only that. Just think to yourself that the pen has been lifted, the inks have been dried, the pages have been dried. So moving on, something which I like to talk about, and this is more practical now, alhamdulillah. So there's 6 areas which I feel kind of the natural antidepressants. The first one we just talked about, accepting qadr of the divine decree. Whatever has happened, and it was all meant to happen. You don't know what's in your future, but accept it's happened, focus on the present, and be hopeful of the future. So that's the first thing, that's the foundation for me here. Second one is being around loved ones. Feeling the warmth of love around you, people who care about you, is an amazing antidepressant. That skin-to-skin contact, when you give your mum a hug, your family a hug, your dad a hug, anyone you love a hug, there's a sense of love, and I feel that is something you should be around, especially if you're feeling down. So Quran, as I mentioned, it is one of the cornerstones of our lives, and I feel the more you have a relationship with Quran, the better your recovery from mental health will be, the better of you managing situations will be, and the more closer to Allah, it does give a light in your heart, inshallah. So even if you don't know how to read the Quran, like me a few years ago, there is learning and tranquility. There is tranquility in learning it. So what I urge everyone here, brothers and sisters, is to start that journey with the Quran, inshallah. And I can always recommend. And the fourth point, hope. Hardship is not constant. To have hope and hardship is not constant. Life changes, everything changes. You won't feel how you do now, you won't feel that forever. And remember that. Like, I know you can think back to difficult times in your life. Even what I sometimes do, I give myself like what's the word? Like timestamps of my life. So I know in 3 months I won't feel like this again. In 3 weeks I won't feel like this again. So the hardship is not constant. It will change. It will get better, and you won't feel like this forever. And have that hope in Allah, and be positive with what Allah will give you, and be positive in the decree of Allah that it will get better. So the fifth point, being active. I know I wrote this when there was no coronavirus, no lockdown. So even when it's hard to get out of bed and do something, there could be something. The small actions help, rather than just sitting down, watching Netflix, sitting in TV. The things that being active, for example, when you get really down, the depression hits, the bad times hit, it's hard to get out of bed, take a shower, do your hair. Take those small incremental steps to get better. So for example, if you're feeling down, get out of bed, go have a shower, do your hair, make your hair nice, and get ready, put some nice clothes on, don't sit in your pajamas. All those little incremental steps will help you get out of that difficult time. Going for a walk, when the gym's open, go to the gym. Team sports are great. All these little things you can do, alhamdulillah, are really helpful. And the sixth point is something I should be practicing more, is keeping a diary. Sometimes our thoughts are just like everywhere. And the storm is just too much in our mind. So writing down how you feel, for me, is very therapeutic, and it'll give you a sense of tranquility and ability to process your thoughts better. And something which I'm trying to practice more now, and I should be practicing more, is like a gratitude diary as well. So just writing down the things you are thankful for, the ability to chat to your family on the phone, the ability to go outside and walk, the ability to have nice dinner, all these little things, alhamdulillah, it's I find it very beneficial. And to finish off, I wrote a part about for the brothers, because I know this is, mashallah, a bit more open with their emotions and what's going through their minds. And to be honest, this is for brothers and sisters. So even though there's a battle going through your minds, and there's still battles and trials that await, and there's some that, and most of them people can't even see, what really defines strength, what really defines courage, what really defines bravery, is the ability to, when something hurts and when something is wrong, you take the initiative and you take the action to fix it. What isn't brave and what isn't courageous and what isn't a feat of strength is ignoring the pain. And I feel that for brothers and sisters, being a good sister, being a good wife, being a good mum, it's not holding things inside. Being a good father, brother, son, it's not holding things inside. It's when there's something hurts, you fix it. Opening your heart, opening your mind, how you feel to people you love, and then moving on to get treatment if you need it. Not only will this lessen the burden on your mind and hardship you're facing, it will make everything easier to manage. And finishing off, there's a saying that the night is darkest just before the dawn. So put your trust in the one who commands the dawn, sun, sky, and the stars. So seek, Allah says in the Quran, say I seek refuge in the Lord of Daybreak. So take refuge and take safety in the one who commands the dawn, sun, skies, and stars, inshallah. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I've kind of flew through that, but the ebook is much better than me just reading it and giving my thoughts. So I can share it afterwards. It's on bravemind.uk, and it's all there to download for free, inshallah. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Jazakallah for that. Yeah, so I'll just put in the website in the chat. So anyone that wants to see the ebook, it's available on bravemind.uk, and there's another ebook there as well, which is just as good. So we got a couple of questions. The first one was, how did seeking professional help you rather than just speaking to friends and family?
Good question. So OCD is a very strange disorder. It's very misunderstood. So I thought I was like, these thoughts are just whatever out of your mind, just weird. But for me, the thoughts were quite disturbing, quite strange, that I couldn't even tell my friends. I only told my mum, and I've told my wife about it now. I wasn't married at the time. But even though they're very disturbing, so I knew something was wrong, and this wasn't normal. So I feel like I had to go to that route. But on the other side of things, there's anxiety, and I've been through bouts of anxiety and depression where it wasn't a need for therapy, and I just messaged one of my friends, and he said to me, like, we have a chat on the phone, and we had a chat for about an hour and a half or something. And what I realized from that, and I've chatted to a few different friends like this, is that they all suffer similar things. And it's really therapeutic just to talk through it. So when you feel an issue like that, it's like your friends are probably suffering through it as well. But when things are really difficult, when something is up, we kind of know when something's up and like, this isn't normal. That's why I feel like it's good to just seek professional help then. Even that's going to the GP, even that's just maybe, a private therapist to get like initial consultation, something like that. It's fine. There's no harm. And the stigma of that needs to be reduced. But that's how I would answer that. I hope that answered the question a bit.
That's great. And this is a question more for myself. So I kind of found you through Freshly Grounded. And
of course.
I seen that you did some work in Parliament. So what was it that you talked about, and like, what was the sort of results from that?
So the Parliament stuff. So I had a friend, and she messaged me about one of her professors talking about men and mental health and doing this, submitting evidence to Parliament about how important it is. Allah bless her for doing that. And so I went to Parliament basically to give my testimony to say how difficult it is for men and mental health, and why we need to put more emphasis on it, and kind of just showing the evidence that it's really there. I was on the panel with two other men as well. So that was it. I haven't heard anything back from them, I guess, because the Parliament government's all a bit. I don't know who was even the Prime Minister then. So that's changed a bit. Alhamdulillah, but it was just to make awareness basically and give evidence of how important it is.
Okay, so in terms of, as you spoke about learning Quran, what sort of organizations would you recommend, and how did you go about finally sort of getting into it and then carrying on with your journey?
So in the beginning, when I wasn't much of a practicing Muslim, I was, but I didn't have a relationship with the Quran. When I was going through a difficult time, I bought a Quran in English, and I was like, this is going to make me feel better. But reading the Quran in English isn't the best way to get closer to Allah. The best way is to recite it. So I went to Ibrahim College, just kind of did my basic kind of things there, learning the alphabet, stuff like that. But it started getting difficult for me to travel to work, from work to there. So I found a place, basically now it's called Imam Jazari Institute, and it is probably the best place in Europe with the most qualified shaykh there to actually teach Quran. And what you do, you have a one-on-one session with them. MashaAllah, Ibrahim College is great, by the way. It was just too far for me to go to. So Imam Jazari Institute is, they've got amazing teachers there, and you have one-on-one 30-minute sessions with the teachers, and they teach you in like a personal way, and you slowly over time start to build this lovely relationship with the Quran. And from the point I just mentioned about me just reading it in English, now I can pick up the Mus'haf wherever and read from it. Alhamdulillah, that's literally a blessing from Allah. And Jazakallah khair for all the people who have taught me. But what I feel is like the difference I feel from when I couldn't read it to now is humongous. It's like this for me is this is a must. This is a must for everybody, inshallah. So Imam Jazari Institute, you can do remote, obviously. Alhamdulillah, it's great. I thoroughly recommend it.
Okay, great. And also, like, in terms of counselling sessions, like, how did you find them, and was it difficult completing the counselling sessions? Or
so how I find, I think my mum found it because I was in a state at the time. I think that I forgot what the name is. It's MC. It's the Muslim Counselling Directory. It's like MCAPP, and my mum just went on there and found me one. Allah bless my mum and my first therapist. It was difficult going the first time because it was a bit scary because the OCD thoughts were very kind of disturbing and I didn't know what to do. But over time, it got easier and easier and easier. And it's never easy to go to therapy. Even now, I've been in and out with another therapist as well. I'd had CBT on NHS. It's never easy. But what happens is that you gather the tools to manage your mental health and your mental well-being. And I feel those tools you learn and you can implement them in your life. And sometimes it only took me maybe about four sessions, private therapy, to actually get the tools I needed and I can implement them. So alhamdulillah, yeah.
Great. And so you spoke about, towards the end of the talk, about like brothers. For sisters, they're more open with it, but with brothers it's a bit more difficult. So what are your thoughts on that, and like what advice would you give to brothers to just be a bit more open with it?
So I feel like, so a lot of the brothers I train with, they're like fighters, they're like strong guys, they're very like, I don't know, some brothers, we feel like we gotta be the warrior type, we have to be really like a soldier, we have to be like, I have to be strong. But if you really think about what is strong, like if you're depressed, you're depressed. If you have anxiety, you have anxiety. If you have bipolar, you have bipolar. If you've got OCD, you have OCD. The definition of strength isn't ignoring if you're feeling pain. The definition of strength is being the best man you can be, the best husband, son, nephew, niece, not niece, but the best person you can be. And the best person you can be is to fix yourself when there's a problem and to fix yourself when you need healing. So for me, bravery and being courageous and having courage, what it really means to be a man is to be the best man you can be. And if the best man you can be, you need to go to therapy, you need to get help. I think that's what true strength is for me. And I admire and I applaud any man or woman who goes into therapy to try and fix themselves and be the best person they can be and the best Muslim they can be for their loved ones.
Now, so you spoke about like you had a personal, you had like personal experience with OCD. Is this something that sort of came about over time, or is it something that you just sort of?
So I think I've had OCD since I was born. Like when I was younger, there was little examples of where I had it, but when it really got bad is when I got a couple of years ago when I got into like adulthood, let's say, and that's when these intrusive thoughts came. But I kind of always had it, if I'm honest. But so one point I want to make, I've been in and out of therapy, the private therapy, a few times. Every couple of years I kind of dip back in again when things get a bit difficult. And I just want to say, like, once you go once, it doesn't mean you're fixed. It's like it's a constant ongoing learning. For example, we get ill all the time. You go to the GP all the time. You see a doctor whenever, right? It's the same with therapy, I feel. Forgot what you asked me now. That was the other thing, yeah. So it's been my whole life. And even on top of the therapy, there's support groups I go to as well. So there's OCD Action, which I go to, and it's just people who have OCD, we have a support group, and we just kind of chat what we're going through. And even that, alhamdulillah, is really beneficial too. So in and out of therapy, and I've had OCD basically my whole life.
So someone's asked, how can people better support someone close to them going through the same thing? So in terms of mental health.
What I feel is just being a bit open, like, look, if you ever have anything, please talk to me. And like, say it in a sincere way. Like, I feel like some people, and Allah bless them for trying, they feel like, I'm always here for you. And they say it, but are they really, it's kind of just a thing to say, like, I'm here if you need anything. Like, what I like to do on WhatsApp is like send a voice note. Like, it's a more sincere thing, and it kind of gives a branch to people. Like, I'm here for you if you need anything. Haven't heard from you in time. If you need something, please hear. I go through stuff as well. And just kind of, if you're open back to them, they're more comfortable to be open to. I think it's just being empathetic towards people and what's going on in their lives.
And I think along the same line, someone's asked, is there anything you wish your friends would have said or done when you're going through your hardest time that may have helped you?
I don't know. Like, it's difficult because like mental health is a very personal thing. Like, in the end of like, it's hard because the power is on you. The onus is on you to make a decision and really get help or do something. If my friends or family, no, I don't think they could have done anything because the onus is on me to actually kind of open up. If I don't open the gate, how are they supposed to help? Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I feel like, why doesn't this person talk to me? This person should talk to me more. People sometimes don't. Some people, alhamdulillah, don't have any mental health issues. They don't have any problems like, in terms of that. They're all good. Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing. But some people won't understand, but some people will, and a lot of people will. So I think the onus is on us to kind of be more open about it. And that's one of the reasons why I started talking about mental health a bit more, because I felt like it was an obligation on me to do it because no one else was doing it. So alhamdulillah, Allah made it easy for me to do so.
I think, so at the start, were you completely open with it, or did you have a period where you sort of bottled it up and kept it to yourself?
Yeah, definitely. And there was a point, so in that point where I went to therapy and I was like, there was a serious point of suicide there. And I was like, this is bad. This is awful. There was a point there. And then when I went to therapy, obviously I was getting better, alhamdulillah. And I managed OCD and I got my therapy. And then someone told me, one of my friends, she said, her brother had died, and rahimahullah, Allah grant Jannah, and they said it was they didn't say why, and then sometime later, she told me he actually committed suicide, and I was like, that was a final straw for me. Like, if other Muslim men are going through this, then I have to speak about it because I felt that as well, and I can't keep this into myself. I have to talk about it. So that's actually where it all stemmed from. Alhamdulillah.
So I think in particular, you said your mum was helpful in getting you professional help. Mm-hmm. Would you ever have sort of been a bit more active in doing that yourself, or did it take someone else to sort of push you to get into professional help?
So my mum, alhamdulillah, she was like a nurse by profession, so she kind of understands the health side of things. But in terms of mental health, I never talked about it then. And I think that previous generation of our mum and dads, they don't understand mental health very well. For me to bring up that with my mum at that time I was at my breaking point. So that for me was like I had no other option. So I was forced into it almost. But alhamdulillah, I was good. It was forced into it. But looking back now in retrospective, now I talk to mum about mental health regularly, like normally. But maybe just bringing it up with your mum and dad, how you feel, there's no harm in it. But yeah, I didn't do it easily. I was forced into it because I had no other option.
Yeah, and you raise a good point about like the older generation. I think in our generation, it's a bit more of a common topic and we're sort of more easy about speaking about it. How do you think, like, for example, as we're younger, we're going to be sort of like the next generation and our parents are still going to be here, inshallah. Like, how do you think we can sort of bring it to them just to let them be a bit more open to it and just let them? Because I'm assuming like a lot of the older generation, they've probably gone through it, but for them it's more just like oh, we just power through it, or it's not that deep, like,
oh yeah, it's not that deep. Oh, I'm just feeling a bit down, maybe I need to like this, it's just that shaitan's what's worse, stuff like that. Of course that comes into it, but I feel like, I don't know, like our mum and dads, they come from a different time, and it's very difficult for them maybe to understand and empathize and like get a true understanding of how we feel. But again, sometimes like sometimes to be honest, when I'm talking to my mum and I'm feeling down, I'm going through like a bout of OCD or anxiety or whatever, I'll tell my mum, look, I'm going through this at the moment. And I know she can't tell me anything to help me, but I just tell her, look, I'm going through this at the moment. That's what I'm going through. And she's like, oh, I'm here if you need anything. And sometimes I know our parents can't help us, but that's why our friends and the people who are trained to help us, that's why it's so important for us to create that support bubble with them to help us through that time. Because sometimes, and I don't blame them at all, that our parents and our older generation, they won't understand. And that's not their fault. They just come from a different time and a different age. So creating that support group with your friends, and as I said, support groups that are available, and seeking that professional help, alhamdulillah, it's an amazing option to have.
Yeah, and I think also sort of like keeping yourself busy. So when you feel like there's episodes where sort of your OCD is, I'd say, a bit more worse than other times, is anything in particular that you do to sort of calm it down a bit, or just to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, so I speak about this in I wrote another anxiety ebook, which is available on the website. And I think one of the main things when anxiety gets really in your mind just racing is to ground yourself in the present. So things like just go for a walk, sit down on a bench, close your eyes and just think about everything that's happening in the moment. So things like how the wind feels on your skin, the sounds you hear, how your socks feel on your feet, the smells you smell. Ground yourself in the present, and that calms me down generally. But in terms of OCD, I went to therapy again a few months ago because it got quite bad. And I'm practicing something so thoughts are thoughts. Thoughts aren't real. Allah doesn't judge us on our thoughts. Allah judges us on our actions. And we have millions of thoughts a day, and people with OCD, they put a lot of importance on thoughts. And what I try to do now is not engage in my thoughts so much, because imagine we all just said what was in our minds right now, what we were going through, we would all seem absolutely crazy. But people with OCD, they put a lot of importance on it. So practicing not engaging with those thoughts is something I'm going through at the moment. But grounding yourself in the present, and I said previously, Allah has decreed what has happened in the past. The future is in the world of the unseen. We don't know what's going to happen there. And being positive with Allah is important about in the world of the unseen. So we're positive what will happen to us. But remaining grounded in the present is being here right now is an important aspect which I try to practice.
And so you also like mentioned having like a gratitude journal. So I've tried to have one. I wouldn't say I'm like consistent with it.
Me neither.
Sometimes like I write something in the morning and then I look at it in the evening and I'm like, okay, that didn't happen today. So how's that like helped you, and are you sort of consistent with it? And do you recommend it to anyone else?
I do definitely recommend it. Like when sometimes you get really fed up with everything and you're just like, oh, everything's awful. Why is this? Why is that? And when you really start to list the blessings you have, like for example, like just giving your mum and dad a call, like being able to have a laugh with your friends, play games, watch stuff on Netflix, like all these things, and you have a list of it and you really look at it and think, wow, these things are amazing. And then what I like to do, I like to do it, I don't say I like to do it, but to think one of those blessings was taken away from you, like being able to talk to your family, FaceTime them or whatever, you would feel awful if that was taken away. So it kind of brings to the forefront what a blessing that is, and it kind of lifts you up a little bit, because that's an amazing thing to have, alhamdulillah.
And so you're quite, I would say, present on social media. As in, what are your thoughts on like social media and sort of well-being and mental health? Because I think that's another thing in today's society that it can cause other people to sort of have a bit of an issue mentally.
Totally. I've restricted my social media just to Instagram, because there was a point when I was like, why am I sharing all this stuff? Why do I need to share that? I don't need to share this. So I stopped sharing and I kind of dedicate my Instagram just for mental health. What I would say, one of the things which is good is to kind of wean yourself off it a little bit. Like think about, if you're posting something, why am I posting this? What is the reason? What's the intention of me posting this? And most of the time is just to get kind of gratitude or whatever, or some kind of something from other people. So what I feel with social media, what I try to do is like, say if I'm on Instagram a lot, have a tablet at home and delete that app from your phone and just have it when you get home. So it's just at home and it's in one place and you only use it there. That's a way to get off it. But at the same time, if all your friends and your whole kind of social circle are on social media, if you delete everything, you're probably going to feel worse. So I think it's just managing it and having appropriate time on it when you need to. And because in the end, it's a tool. And if it's a tool, you feel connected with your friends and family, alhamdulillah, that's a blessing as well. So kind of have time on it. Don't spend all day on it. So as I said, if you have an iPad or a tablet, put it in one room, delete it from your phone and only access it a few times at the end of the day on that device.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also, like you just mentioned, sort of like friends, like, and you mentioned how important like the company you keep is.
Mm-hmm.
How do you sort of go about sort of like going about that company you keep? Are you sort of particular with certain people that you know, or they sort of like help you, or how do you go about sort of managing the people that you keep around you?
So that's a great question, alhamdulillah. So when I'll take you back to when I was talking about when I bought that English Quran, I didn't really have many Muslim friends at the time, to be honest. But when I started seeking knowledge, and I think this is for everybody, I think it's an obligation for all Muslims to seek knowledge, like to understand our purpose of existence. And that's one thing I didn't put in the paper, in the ebook, sorry, is that the more we understand our purpose of why we're here in this dunya, in this life, the more easier the hardship becomes to manage. For example, why does this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And we go straight to Allah decreed it. Simple as that. But we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So understanding why we're here, understanding the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ as well, understanding his trials that he went through, peace be upon him. That for me is crucial because it grounds us why we're here and what our purpose of existence is. And that leads me on to the actual question. When I started seeking knowledge, studying Quran, my friendship circle, Allah blessed me with like people who remind me of Allah. And my group of friends changed dramatically. And it was a blessing that I got people that I can just chat to about Islam when I'm going through a hard time, alhamdulillah. So what I would say, once you take the intention to actually study, to seek knowledge, whatever it may be, whatever avenue you go through, Allah blesses you with people who remind you of him around you. So take the initiative, take the action to actually seek knowledge. And I think the best place is to start with the Quran.
And so someone's asked, when would you say a mental illness is like no longer like the shaitan's waswasa and it's an actual mental illness? Like, because I know, as you said, a lot of people, they sort of relate it to that.
Yeah. But, that's a very, very good question. So that was actually, I wanted to write another ebook about this. I need to do a bit more research into it because it's a big topic. I think we need some shaykh who are psychologists as well and to bring it in. But for example, when the waswas, for example, I used to make ghusl and wudu I'll be in the bathroom for 20 minutes, doing it. And I don't know if this was from shaitan or this was my OCD. It could have been both. But when, for example, I'll distinguish them from intrusive thoughts. When we get intrusive thoughts, people with OCD, we get these very disturbing thoughts. They're unwanted thoughts. They're not wanted. So for me, that's OCD. When it gets to the point with things like it's very ritual based. So for example, you're doing wudu a lot, and then to the point where you're going to miss salah, that for me is waswas. It's literally, I think I've done it. I think I've done it correct. Bismillah, go. That's what I would feel. But there's a line where it goes. And when it's things like, for example, you start thinking badly of people. You start thinking like, this person did this. I think this person did that. A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim. That's it. Shaitan, get away from me. So when I get a thought like that, this is what I went through my therapist as well. All my therapists are Muslim, by the way, alhamdulillah, most of them. When you get a thought, just say, A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim, and don't engage with it. Just go, no. Don't let it in. Don't let it in. And whether it will be a more mental compulsion or waswas, that kind of negating it but not engaging with it and saying A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim kind of gets it both. But definitely more research is done on this area, inshallah. But that's how I would tackle it. I hope that's helpful, inshallah.
So in terms of therapists, do you have any recommendations on therapists or the type of therapist, and how do you actually go about sort of getting into therapy and then just the general process of therapy itself?
So as I said, the Muslim directory, I could try and send a link for it, was very helpful because it's got loads of Muslim therapists, all genders, backgrounds and everything. And the best thing to do is just give them a call and have a chat about their experience. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And sometimes, like I've had therapy on NHS, which hasn't been very good and stuff like that, but you have to gel with your therapist. And if you have one, and you don't seem to vibe very well, you're on the wrong page of things and you don't think you're not on the right track with each other, you can try another one. There's no problem at all. For me personally, I know I won't get along with male therapists because therapy for me it's always been a female and me, because I find it more comfortable. And for me, it always has to be a Muslim therapist because, again, I feel more comfortable. And one time I couldn't go with a male therapist, and because he wasn't from an ethnic minority, I felt a bit uncomfortable because I felt, obviously no fault of his own, I felt they wouldn't empathize or understand what I was going through. So all these things are some things that make me feel more comfortable when choosing a therapist.
Do you think it was important that you had like a Muslim therapist versus a non-Muslim one?
Yeah, I think 100%.
With therapy, it's sort of more like medically directed, and some people they go to sort of like general counselling and therapy. So with having a Muslim one, you feel held better because, of course, they understand the Islamic background of everything as well.
Of course. So to the point I just mentioned about the West, for example, if you went to a non-Muslim therapist who was like a generalist or something like that, and they said it's the devil, how they would say like, what? That is unethical to say that. But for us as Muslims, we know Shaitan plays a part in these things, and waswas is real. So when I'm a Muslim therapist, like for example, just say A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim, it helps. Wallahi, it helps. And another point on top of that is like what I used to do when it got really bad is recite a page of Surah Al-Baqarah every night, just before I sleep, just to help. And it kind of gives me you a power up, get extra protection. For mental health, kind of keeps you a bit more stronger. But yeah.
So someone asked, how do you cope with people who have seen your worst side, and how do you move on from that? Because as you said, for example, you've had to open up to your mum, and like how's that been? How do you cope with that, and so how's your relationship changed with your mum then?
To be honest, I think it made it better. If I'm honest, remember, Allah made us imperfect. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We do bad things. We have bad sides. We have good sides. We're human. And I feel like if people see the worst of you, then they've seen the worst of you. That's how it is. But now they can see the best of you. There's beautiful sides to everyone. There's bad sides to everyone. We're all sinners. We all do bad things. We all make mistakes. That's how we're created. So I wouldn't even give it a second thought. If you've wronged someone, you can apologize, give sadaqah in their name, these types of things. And we make mistakes. Allah created us this way, but we return to Him, we ask for His forgiveness, and we try to do right. But if someone has seen the worst of you, okay, they've seen the worst, now they can see the best of you, inshallah. Simple as that. That's what I would say. Hope that's helpful.
Yeah, great. And we spoke a bit about qadr before and destiny. And of course, everything is sort of already destined. And do you think sort of having that thought in the back of your mind whilst you're going through stuff sort of helps you through it, and just help you think that it's more of just like a phase and this is all it's meant to be?
Exactly. So it was always meant to be. So when, as I said, I think especially Muslims, and we always think like, what if this, what if that, if only I'd done this. Shush, it's qadr of Allah. It's been written for you, maktub. It's already been written. And one of the things one of my teachers told me, because I asked him, when something happens in our lives, when something really difficult happens, what do we do? Like, you can think of the worst things that happen: death, illness, all these types of things, loss. Remember that this is just a mere chapter in your life. This is a mere chapter. This isn't the end. And remember, this isn't the end. And I feel that when you read a book, and say you're on the third chapter, the book's big. The hero, the heroine in the book, when something bad happens to them in that chapter, in those early chapters, you wouldn't think that's the end, right? There's a whole book left, and there's a whole story that is coming. So it's just, when those hardships happen, it's just a chapter. There is so much more left, and it's not the end, and you won't feel like that forever.
And someone's asked, what is your ideal like day or routine that sort of helped you feel your best in terms of your mental health?
So when I was feeling really down, I used to eat a lot. So I put on loads of weight. loads of weight. So my ideal day is, firstly, eat healthy, eat clean. Don't order pizza like me every time and put on weight. Eat clean. Fajr. Fajr is like a lovely start to the day. Always makes you feel better when I grab it and I don't miss it. Eat healthy, eat clean, exercise, team sport. I've trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so being around people, training with them. I know you can't do it at the moment, but exercise, being out, being healthy, and like having something to look forward to. And little projects, for example, building things, doing a puzzle, these types of things where you feel accomplished. That for me is one of the highlights of my day. Especially in coronavirus time, it's different. But I hope that helps. But healthy, Quran, chatting to people, chatting to your friends, keeping yourself busy with them, seeing how they are, having a joke, that type of stuff. All the normal things that we enjoy. And I think there's a good point about self-care and loving yourself is that you need to practice self-care. And practicing self-care, I mean doing the things that you'd like to do and make you feel good. Obviously not the haram things, but the good things which are good for you and you enjoy, inshallah.
Okay, great, inshallah. So I think, yeah, unless you have anything else to say, I think inshallah, like, spoke enough and you can do everything. So we just want to plug your website and your ebook again, so that everyone can go check it out.
Brilliant, inshallah. I've sent the Muslim directory to you, Hassan. So feel free to check it on. But yeah, any questions? I'm on Instagram. I can point you in the right direction if you need anything. I always give advice on OCD. So if you have it, I'm happy to help, inshallah. And inshallah, please, everything's free. If you've got any questions, inshallah, this is beneficial and helpful. Allah bless you all, and may Allah keep us on the straight path and keep Islam in our hearts, and help us through these difficult times that we're all going through.
I mean, so thanks for that. Yeah, that's fine. So as I said, inshallah, I've just pasted the link in the chat. I think, was that to the counselling directory?
Yeah, it's Muslim Counselling Directory.
And I've also posted the link for your website just a bit early on.
Yeah,
so yeah, inshallah, I appreciate that, and thanks for replying to me on Instagram, because I had like 10 followers and I thought you'd probably thought I'm some like fake account or something.
No, I didn't at all. Yeah. No problem at all.
I appreciate that. So jazakallah then, and take care. And once again, if you ever need, inshallah, in the future, if you are down to talk again, we'll definitely.
Of course, anytime you need anything, happy to talk, happy to chat about this. But jazakallah everyone. Allah bless you all. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. So the next talk is scheduled for 12:30. So if everyone's happy to take a little comfort break till 12:30, and we can get back to the conference.
Yeah, that should be all right. Yeah, unless if you want to message the next speaker, see if she wants to come in maybe a bit earlier.
I'll ask.
Okay, then otherwise 12:30 would be the time.
Yeah, so 12:30, back to business.